French military forces in Mali say they've killed the leader of an Islamic extremist group in the West African country. It comes after a militant attack which killed 53 soldiers last week. Mali's president recently warned that the very existence of his country is at risk because of a rise in violence by terror groups. France has stressed its commitment to fighting the spread of Islamist extremism in Africa's vast Sahel region.
Nothing would be worse than to prove the terrorists right by lowering our guard at a time when such dramatic events are happening. So we must be able to continue, but for that there are conditions. There are conditions for success.
7 years of bloodshed and violence isn't just continuing in Mali. Some say it's worsening. In recent weeks, attacks have been increasing, with Islamic State claiming responsibility. Another casualty of the mounting violence is France. French troops have been stationed in Mali, a former colony, for years.
The
Sahel, from now on, will account for 50% of our budget for international security and cooperation, because this is where the security of the African continent, and more generally, the security of a good part of our planet, Europe included, is being threatened.
France has been leading the charge after Mali was split in two in 2012 by Islamists who declared Sharia law in the north of the country. It deployed troops to the region in 2013, but despite initial promise, jihadists have regrouped and they've spread. Violence has spilled over into neighbouring countries, Burkina Faso and Niger. Now, despite repeated commitments from President Macron to shore up the fragile region, he's just not been able to stabilise the Malian government. And the number of attacks has doubled since 2016. Despite that, France is intent on staying in the Sahel.
Our commitment to the Sahel is and remains a priority for France. We will take time to defeat these groups who thrive on the social and economic difficulties of the Sahel region.
As the violence spreads across Mali, the failure of the French and UN troops to keep a lid on it is stirring other tensions. Malian military families have complained that the army is not being given sufficient resources to fight the insurgency. That's led to protests not just to denounce terrorism, but also the presence of foreign troops. Patience for military progress is wearing thin. Some groups are calling for a change of tack, advocating opening up dialogue with the jihadists. That's something France has previously ruled out. So too have Mali's top officials. But with the current impasse, a new solution is needed, or the death toll is likely to only rise. Charlotte Dubinsky, RT, Paris.
Journalist and Africa expert Ayo Johnson believes the French presence in the region could in fact become counterproductive.
There comes a time when people say that those that have come from the outside, and that people, predominantly Europeans and the French specifically, so there are times when people say they've overstayed their welcome. There's a time when they've crossed a line and feel that the local support that they once were receiving might be declining. I think we're coming close to that point, because at some point in time, we're coming close to 7 years that they've been there. We'll be so close to 10 years, if not more. And at some point, the Malian government has got to realize that they're not making the relevant gains that they once were, and more so if things become counterproductive over time. The Sahel has always been a difficult one. Again, we are seeing for the first time, if not in many most recent times, where IS and Al-Qaeda seem to be working together. We've seen them actively operating on the same territory. Mali is clearly one of those territories. So it's going to be very difficult to dislodge them, and it's going to be very difficult for the Sahel to become free of terrorism and free of jihadists.